Three, two, one. Hey guys, we're finally live. Skype, let's do it eventually. we're here. It's been the first one in a couple of weeks, guys. A couple of podcasts that didn't come to fruition, and I've changed tack a little bit. Going to be a bit more. What's the word? A bit more infrequent, but we're going to keep the quality as high as possible. So I've got someone here, Maru, who is on top of her game in a very small section of dentistry and dentistry adjacent kind of sphere, isn't it? It's a bit different, so we definitely need to hear from you. And you've been helping a lot of people, so I thought with the way everything's been going throughout 2020, it's probably the right sort of thing to talk about a little bit more. So it's resilience, it's stress management, and well-being for dentists, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So that's a topic I'm massively passionate about, and I think, yeah, as you're saying, really need to explore this currently during COVID, all these lockdowns. But even outside of COVID, there is a big appetite for just learning more about how to be happier and live a more fulfilled, kind of engaged life. So, yeah, beyond those topics, I'm really passionate about spreading positive psychology. It's the things that we can learn from that for the profession. So yeah, really, really excited. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, and you've I think you've done really well with that. I mean, I keep on saying that, but yeah, it's really important. I think what people will want to hear first, I think let's set the scene first about the things that you're involved in, and then we'll go backwards and go, how did you get here? Does that sound
Okay, that
good? I don't
sounds
know if
good.
that's what everyone else wants to hear as well, but that's my plan, so we'll go with it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So yeah, just reel off what you're involved in, because I know there was a couple of different accounts you started, and then you settled on psychology and dentistry, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
it's the best way of me saying
yeah.
it, I think.
Yeah, so I founded a wellbeing startup last year, and ultimately I'm combining positive psychology with neuroscience and mindfulness and bringing that to dentistry, really to help boost psychological well-being. And in fact, actually, I'm on a mission to get preventative well-being training embedded in curriculums, in practices, trying to make organizational change, but also just helping you at an individual level. So that's the kind of mission with Mindninja. So I am currently coaching dental professionals. I do lots of workshops and webinars talking about how you can really apply the science of well-being to your life practically. So that's a really important part of what I'm doing. I'm also writing a lot as well. So currently writing a book. I've got lots of plans with Mindninja. Currently, it's me, but the idea is to have a team. Hopefully next year, need to find a co-founder in tech. But the idea is to create an app or a website that will help us in terms of really figuring out where we are in terms of burnout, help us feel more engaged at work. So I'd really like to kind of explore that and give hopefully some tools that can really help us. So that's the kind of focus currently. I am also working a couple of days. So I work 3 days in practice. I've been working for 10 years now. I'm currently completing my master's in applied positive psychology. So end of this year, I'll be a qualified positive psychologist, which is awesome. I'm also a accredited mindfulness teacher, so I'm really, really delved into well-being. I'm really passionate about upskilling, and it's just really
Yeah.
nice to kind of be exploring these topics
Yasmin
and
says
bring something.
an app would be really amazing, so that'd be good once you get that for her.
Yeah, definitely. Well, basically, if anyone is interested in mental health and dentistry and it knows anything about tech, like get in contact with me because I'm literally looking for a co-founder. So that will be really beneficial to kind of keep keep going with all these ideas that I have. Yeah, so that's kind of the bulk of what I'm doing at the moment. And then before that, a couple of years ago, I founded a women's group in
Yeah.
dentistry, uh, as I am interested in inequality as well, and championing women and creating a safe space for them. So we had our first charity conference in 2019, where we combined kind of business leadership with dentistry and well-being. So something completely kind of new. And yeah, that really helped me kind of connect with lots of different dentists, and that was my kind of beginning of exploring what my passion was. And through that, I discovered that I really want to make a
Yeah.
difference in terms of supporting us. And I feel actually currently there is such an emphasis on services at crisis point, but there's no prevention, and that's kind of where I fit in. You know, what can we do to help people early on in their career? So, in terms of mindset, happiness, in terms of finding more meaning. Obviously, that involves lowering kind of anxiety and depressive scores, but also all the other kind of positive markers. So, you know, boosting your levels of well-being, your resilience levels. So all of those kind of factors are really important. And yeah, I'm feeling really
Yeah.
optimistic that there will be change. What else have I done? Oh, the other thing I was going to add was I've written a program for Action for hygienists and therapists.
Yeah.
So it's all changing the landscape, and eventually we'll get to a point where clinical like psychological well-being is going to be really kind of embedded, not just undergraduate, which it needs to happen, but also postgraduate. We need to have courses, you know, level 7 good courses to help us learn about these tools early on. So, you know, at the moment it's really cool. We're having a lot more interest in mental health, I would say, but we need to kind of keep going forward with that. And it would be great if there were more there's more airtime to this, and that organizations, yeah, really want to take this forward by kind of creating these courses for us.
Yeah. You,
So
you got involved within a couple of unis, didn't you? I don't.
yes, yeah, that's another thing I did, which was awesome. So I've been really interested in changing the undergrad curriculum. So I was part of the King's College London Resilience Pilot Programme. So that was really awesome. So that was year 5 dental students. And I've done lots of workshops with different universities around UK, and I'm going to keep pestering them ultimately about you know, embedding this into the undergrad curriculum. So that's the goal. Right now, there are problems with funding, which is a common
Mm.
thing. Problems with time, but it is happening. It will change. It's just a matter of
I think I
persistence,
brought
I
up
think.
universities because, well, obviously I've been to university, hence BDS and all that. But
Yeah,
I think they were exceptionally poor, and it's not just the university that I went to, but a lot of universities were exceptionally poor at supporting students.
yeah,
Um, Not an individual, a knock at individual tutors or anything like that. And at times, maybe the dental school was pretty good, but Central University gets in the way quite a lot,
yes,
and they don't seem to understand that dentistry is not the same as geography. The coloring pencils aren't out, and we do quite a lot compared to other courses. And I
yeah,
know from personal experience and from friends that people really struggled at some point, at different times mentally, and wanted to drop out, wanted to do X, Y, Z, or whatever. Um, and it affects lots of your relationships, and lots of different things happen as a result. And a lot of that is due to a lack of understanding of what's going on in a young person who's left home and then is trying to do all these things.
mhm,
So I think it's important that we kind of open these people's eyes, and it's always down to funding, isn't it, at the end of the day, with these guys.
yes.
So you kind of maybe need to
Well,
show the economic benefit to them of less resits, less all these other things, if
yeah.
people are just supported the right way the first time.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right about that. I mean, it's not just funding, it's also politics at universities. There's about curriculum space, a conversation around that. So it will take some time, but it's moving in the right
Yeah.
direction. And I know actually a lot of universities now are paying more attention. So I feel like we're not quite there yet, but certainly there are more kind of talks around mindfulness and drop-in mindfulness sessions at some of the universities. So I'm feeling optimistic about that. But you're right, in terms of the stresses that we have as dental students, they're really, really high, and they're higher than the general population when we look at
Mm.
studies. We know burnout often starts, during that intense 5-year degree. And so, of course, it's really, really paramount. There's another interesting study that came out last year looking at UK dental students and found that 35% have these traits for maladaptive perfectionism. So that's a type of personality.
How
It
do we do
means someone.
this little test? Because I'm pretty sure I'll be in there.
Well, yeah, it's just about getting a scale so I can give you that information. But it's really, really, really
If you've got
interesting.
that,
A lot
send
of
it
us
over, and
have.
I'll try and do it as we talk. And then, because I'm gonna say there's 99% possibility that I'm one of those.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be likely. I don't have it like on the
No
top
worries.
of my head.
Send that to me.
But
We'll check it out.
I can definitely send it
Yeah.
to you. But yeah, so it found that so with maladaptive perfectionism, it's all about really individuals that are very self-critical. They want things to be perfect, but of course, perfectionism doesn't exist. It's a made-up construct, so it means that you're very critical when things go wrong, and you set yourself up for failure essentially. And this is really, really tough when you're working as a dentist, when there are lots of challenges, obstacles, failures. That's part of the profession.
Mm.
And that can certainly kind of trigger kind of rumination and anxiety. It's linked with things like depression. So it is definitely kind of worth addressing. And when I talk about psychological well-being training, what does that mean? It's not just about self-care. It's not just about self-management and stress management. It's also about thriving and going with the right mindset. So this growth mindset, when you're thinking about approaching new challenges, even upskilling, you need a tremendous amount of growth mindset to keep putting yourself forward for intense courses and kind of working yourself up. And another aspect, of course, is self-compassion. That's the antidote to perfectionism. So how do we as a profession learn how to be kinder to ourselves, create kind of a positive coach, and really help us kind of progress forward. There is this conversation or a thought that perhaps perfectionism is linked with your motivation to go forward and further and to thrive. But actually, what the research shows, and people are going to be aware of this anyway because it just makes so much sense, that if you're constantly like uh, tormenting yourself for the mistakes you're making, telling yourself you're worthless, or honing into the negatives. And the brain has this natural negativity bias, so
Yeah.
that's quite natural. We lean into that anyway, but if we're constantly doing that, we're not doing ourselves any favors. And if we are kinder to ourselves and learn how to do this, then we can really kind of excel and move forward and pick ourselves up. So that's what the research is showing. So self-compassionate individuals are more likely to kind of keep trying new things, challenging themselves, pick themselves up when things go wrong. It's and even in terms of like health and relationships and trying new things, positive habits, you need all of
Yeah.
this. So um, that's kind of where I fit in, and what I'm trying to promote in terms of the kind of teaching I'm doing and the workshops is to kind of really target the things that are specific to us. And certainly when I'm coaching, that's a common one that I start off with, about compassion and perfectionism and that kind of inner critic that we often
Yeah.
have, uh, or even levels of imposter syndrome that I'm sure or many of us have experienced at some point or still do during our clinical career. This sense of feeling we're a fraud despite us, upskilling, but feeling like we're going to be found out. So yeah, I think these things are real issues that we need to explore, and it's exciting really as well, because another part of what I'm exploring with dentists is learning about their values and meaning and how to invite that as well and how to boost their happiness levels. So it's a really interesting conversation. It isn't just about kind of surviving. I want to move away from just that. We're really talking about also
Yeah.
thriving, flourishing, happiness, finding more purpose. And that's going to really set you forward for a long career. And ultimately, isn't that what we're all doing? We're trying to create, life that brings us meaning. And some of us are lost or frustrated, and we're not quite getting that. And I feel like that central question has become really
Be a little bit lost to
clear.
some people that what the idea behind everything is, isn't it?
Yes, yes, exactly. So it's, I think during the pandemic, we've certainly kind of been addressing these questions
Yeah.
internally around, what's the purpose? Why are we here? And positive psychology beautifully kind of explores this because it combines psychology and philosophy. And where traditional psychology focuses on what was wrong, positive psych focuses on how do individuals, organizations, societies flourish. So it's a really kind of exciting part of psychology. So many benefits for our profession. So it'd be really nice to kind of see more of these interventions. Um, you know, like I said, for students, but also postgrad as well. We need a lot more emphasis on this, and we need solutions. So I always get really frustrated by the conversation. And I think because we've just started it, it's all quite new, but the general conversation around, well, we have support, we have the helplines, and we have CBT
Mm.
sessions. I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but why don't we, manage this earlier on? Because burnout is preventable, compassion fatigue is preventable. Yeah, let's bolster like students with the right
Yeah,
tools.
with
So
students, I think by the time you realize you need any of these tools, you've already failed like 4 exams, so it's not really helped at
yeah,
all. Um, so yeah, I can kind of get behind that and get it done as part of the whole curriculum, and then you're going to learn better, you're going to become better, the whole way through. But let's kind of rewind a little bit and go back to your journey, and then we'll add in more of the positive psychology and where things start to fit in for you,
yeah,
just to get an idea of
yeah,
what drove you to this particular point. So
yeah,
maybe should we go from dental school, or do you think is that where things started?
yeah. So, yeah, I think it's worth mentioning dental school. So, I really struggled with dental school. I didn't fail my exams, I wasn't retaking. I just did not feel like I was a
Mm.
science person. In fact, I had always thought of myself as a writer. I love creative writing, loved English. And there was a point where I was deciding on which profession to go for. And I thought, okay, I really want to help people, don't want to be a doctor. Perhaps I shouldn't be writing books, not sure how I can have a career with English Lit. how about dentistry? And I did some work experience, loved it because the dentist just spent most of the time talking to his patients and did like 2 seconds of dentistry. I was like, okay, that's the kind of dentist I want to be. And then I did this really intensive course that I really, really disliked. I found King's particularly really tough. Um, there was a big emphasis on exams, as with all unis, but there was also at least when I was doing it, I don't know if it's changed, but there was this kind of shaming culture where you were really kind of reminded of how tough things were, and rather than kind of approaching it in a
Do you mean how
slightly
tough
different
dentistry
way.
is, or how tough the course is, or?
Yeah, how tough the course is, and an emphasis on number of people kind of dropping out. So they would kind of try and scare you into kind of studying. There's a lot of fear-based kind of teaching. And but I mean there were lots of positives as well, but my overall experience was I'm not sure how competent I am, but beyond that, I'm not sure if I like this. I don't know if I've got any skills. I don't really feel like I have that self-esteem to go forward. So the first few years really was just about me finding my feet, realizing my worth, and just appreciating my strengths. So that took a bit of time initially. And then, so I've been qualified now for 10 years. I went straight into
How
general
was your FD
practice.
year then, or was it called foundation year back then? What?
Uh, yeah, yeah, it was
Right.
called VT year, vocational training. It was really tough. I moved to Birmingham and I was with a trainer that just wasn't very nurturing. And I felt like like that's what I needed at
Mm,
that point. I needed someone to just walk it with me, and she wasn't like that, and that's fine. Like everyone's teaching style is different. So I didn't particularly enjoy FD, and it wasn't actually. It was really after BT, after dental school, when I went to general practice, that I really kind of started enjoying the
yeah.
dentistry and realizing actually I can connect with patients, I can put them at ease, I'm really good with anxious patients. And yeah, you start kind of realizing what your specific value is and how you can benefit a patient. And so that was great. So I loved that. And then I worked in NHS dentistry for some time, just purely kind of learning skills. And I got married. I moved to Birmingham and I was married for a couple of years. And then the marriage was really, really difficult and we got a divorce. So it was actually, that was the pivotal
Yeah.
point really
Did that affect your
for
work as
me.
much, or was work an escape? How did it kind of fit in?
So yeah, it helped. Well, work was really tough in that emotionally I was going through a roller coaster. I was going through the stages of
Mm,
grief, and so normally I'd be quite calm, and I was noticing, I was crying sometimes, or I was feeling very triggered. So that was difficult. But I reduced my clinical days. So I went from 5 to 3. I started therapy. I found mindfulness. And all of those things really made a massive difference. So therapy I absolutely loved. I think that we should all get some therapy again as a preventative measure way before you need it. But that was really helpful. So it was literally someone walking me through how you do this, because a divorce is essentially a big breakup, a big life change. So you're navigating this big psychological ground, and you kind of don't know what to do, don't know how to
yeah.
do it. So that was really helpful. Mindfulness was literally a game changer for me. During that period of time where my mind was constantly ruminating of the past, projecting in the future, and feeling very anxious and fearful of what my life would look like. I had a house, I had a marriage, I had a husband, I had thoughts of children, and then you're thinking you're going to start afresh. How does it,
Mm,
how does it work? So that was the mindfulness really helped in um, really kind of honing into how to be present. If you're constantly thinking about the past or the future and you're living in the sense of worry and anxiety, you need a opportunity to switch off, and that's what mindfulness kind of affords you to do, because it lets you hone into the present moment.
Was the trouble?
And
Was that a doorbell? I heard.
yeah, it was
Uh,
well, yeah,
Um,
sorry. Um,
do you need to get that?
so
Someone else got.
no,
Okay.
no, no, I don't. No.
Um, what was my
Um,
question?
I was going I was going to mention about the
Mm,
mindfulness as well. Oh, yes, another feature was the non-judgmental attitude that you learn from mindfulness. So a lot of people associate mindfulness with stress relief, and of course it does help that, and it did at that period
mm,
during the divorce, when I was feeling, lots of, sad feelings, depressive feelings, loss of meaning. I was going through depression as well. So it did help with that. But beyond that, it helps with in bringing more self-compassion, because it reminds you to focus on the present in a non-judgmental way. So mindfulness is not just about kind of feeling less anxious. It's about learning how to be self-compassionate, because the actual definition is leaning into the present non-judgmentally. So we're constantly being critical of ourselves, and mindfulness helps you learn how to be kinder and loving
mm.
and give yourself support. So for me, actually, mindfulness is really a way of life. It's way beyond stress management. I 100% use it today. It's probably the most important practice that I do, and it's so accessible for us, and so many qualities that you can learn from it. Self-compassion, massive one. And that's kind of where that journey started of personal development. How do I let go of feelings of shame and guilt of marriage, and kind of lean into a more exciting kind of future. And mindfulness was a big kind of
Yeah.
part of that journey. Um, the other thing I was going to add in at university, I didn't say that I did an integrated BSc in psychology. So I did in my third year, like move into psychology for a year. So the interest in psychology had kind of always been there. And I just kind
Mm.
of jumped at the opportunity to do the BSc, and it was just literally the best year. It was nice getting out of dentistry for a bit and
Yeah, you
learn
already
about
had that eye
something
in a little
else.
bit
Uh,
from an early doors.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where the seed started, and then went through depression, learned these tools, mindfulness, learned about therapy and self-awareness, because ultimately therapy helps you really learn how to check in with yourself, and to piece a different story. So that was really, really helpful. And then a few years in, I experienced
Yeah, just
burnout as
rolling
well.
back a little.
And
When you've gone
yeah,
through a divorce, and it's obviously something that you'd hope not to go through, and it's sad that it's happened, but I suppose a lot of people may go through something like that. For you, was it just
yeah.
your own thoughts that were causing an issue, or was it attitudes of other people towards, oh, you got divorced, or um was it this, maybe strife between the two of you when the breakup was happening? Was it more multifaceted than just your own bad thoughts?
Yeah, it's a combination of different things. So it wasn't really able we weren't really able to be as civil as
Mm.
I would have hoped. So there was an element of that. Um, and that's very common with marriages. Um, did I feel a sense of stigma? No, not personal stigma. So I was quite fortunate. My family were really supportive. So I never felt this sense of shame that I can't approach them or talk to them, or even my family, or friends. But what I did notice was the impact it had on my mind. So in terms of the depressive feelings, and also I noticed that I was experiencing symptoms of
Mm.
social anxiety. So the thought of going to my friend's wedding was frightening. I went to her
Yeah.
wedding, which was great, but it was this thought like that everyone's going to ask me, and I don't really
Yeah.
want to talk about it, and I have to act like I'm happy, but I'm not happy, and this is really tough for me. I'm not sure if I can like pull off this act. So I remember I'm normally very sociable and I like being around friends and family, so that was really marked to
That
see
change.
um, those those symptoms. Yeah, and I guess what was really interesting now reflecting back is it reminds me that actually we're all on this mental health continuum, and any of us can shift up and down this continuum dependent on our life circumstances. So no one is immune
Yeah.
to poor mental health. It's just about an interplay between your protective and your risk factors. So, you know, at that point, the divorce was happening. I was lucky that I had family support. I was lucky that I was able to access treatment. And for me, that was therapy and mindfulness, good nutrition, trying to sleep, you know, all of these elements. But I quite firsthand was kind of exploring this. And even though I had learned about these things in psychology, in the BSc, it wasn't until I experienced them that I really kind of understood what it meant to be experiencing, you know, depressive feelings or and for me it was just a massive
Mm.
lack of meaning. Like I just literally didn't feel like I knew my purpose. It didn't feel like there was any point. And you know, all that kind of passion had gone. So that was it was a really kind of tough experience. So those things helped, but also actually I found also what was helpful was art. So I kind of explored my creative side, and that kind of helped me a lot in my recovery. So I started upcycling furniture, which was really epic. I had no interest in DIY before, but I just thought, okay, I'm going to just try new things. I joined a art class in Birmingham, and that was a lot of fun. So it would be kind of weekly art
Yeah.
sessions with an artist, and it was just literally like painting, playing with color, and yeah, anything I could do that was creative. And I was kind of honing into stuff that I was doing as a kid that I hadn't done throughout dentistry, completely forgotten about this part of my personality. And that was quite liberating as well. A bit like mindfulness, where you well, actually, I wouldn't even bring mind. So you can bring mindfulness. So you're really honing into the details of that experience, and you're getting in that experience and being present. And there's another component to that called
Right.
psychological flow, and that's what you experience when you get into the zone. And that's what creativity allowed me to do. And that's really beneficial when it comes to like boosting our happiness levels and our resilience and well-being. Um, and then I guess another reflection would be post-traumatic growth. So we talk a lot about PTSD, post-traumatic stress. So when you experience trauma like a divorce, a loved one, losing a loved one, etc., um, you can it can really
Yeah.
impact you psychologically. You know, you might experience things like depression, anxiety, PTSD, etc. But the flip of that as well, or some people, and this is lots of research in this, and I fall under this category, which is awesome, experience post-traumatic growth, and that's where you go through trauma and you learn and grow, and you learn a lot from it, so you become almost like a 2.0 version of yourself. And that's essentially what happened. Like I went through this shit time, but then I
Yeah.
learned so much. I gained all these wicked tools. I had insight into this problem in dentistry. And so initially it was just about me feeling better and moving, you know, initially it was all about survival. And then it became an interest for me about how do you thrive? Like, I want to know how I can create a new life and it be the
Think forward. Yeah.
best, you know, it can possibly be. And how do I invite meaning and how do I make a difference in someone else's life? So it became this important quest to put yourself out there and to like leave a legacy as well, and to really kind of build something purposeful. And that's where I started looking into kind of empowering women in dentistry and creating that. And then beyond that, how do I address this clear mental health problem? Like I can
Yeah.
see the issue. There's no preventative interventions out there. Let's do something about it. And so it was doing the research, working out, well, what is the research saying about interventions for us, and it's pointing to psychological interventions, so elements of CBT, mindfulness, positive psychology, things that I'm kind of introducing at the moment is based on that. And then it was really about upskilling, like how do I learn things so that I can create a program, I can create workshops and services that can really make a difference, and address a problem that we're not really talking about enough yet. We're just starting it. So yeah, that's the kind of journey.
When you're going through these things, is it something that in general you can kind of recognize yourself that you need help, or do you need someone to give you a push? Because I think that's maybe a key as well. Sometimes some people can't see that they're spiraling a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think having a support system that's going to help you, really notice these things and to encourage you is going to be really important. I was lucky in that, I guess, with having the psychology degree, I had an understanding of what was available. So I knew therapy was available, and the things like art and mindfulness. Um, I knew those were strategies that people already used, so it was
Yeah.
kind of comfortable for me. Like for me, actually, I saw therapy as, look, this professional is going to help me with tools for me to understand the mind better. It's going to be like a mind gym. And so it's like, why wouldn't I do this? If someone's literally going to help me. But yeah, for lots of other people, they might not have insight into what's going on. And so this is where kind of friends, this is where organizations also make a big difference. We can help our colleagues as well at work. If we notice that they're like disengaged, they're not, sleeping enough, etc. You start noticing these things, you can lend a helping ear, and you can kind of listen in a non-judgmental, kind of empathetic way, and encourage people to get support. And there is specific
Yeah.
support for dentists, dental professionals at crisis point. So there are a number of things that they can do. So not just the helplines, but also the NHS practitioner program, where you can self-refer. You don't even have to go through by
Yeah.
the GP route. So yeah, there are things for us, which is really, really awesome. So yeah, you're right. I think you need that support. And yeah, for me, I was kind of fortunate that there wasn't a stigma. That's just not the case for
Mm.
many dental professionals. They will not see help because they are the person who's helping other people. They're, to kind of reverse the
Yeah.
role is tough for them. So
So
yeah,
then obviously you've gone through that, and then you started empowering women in dentistry. That was the
women
first
in
thing that you
dentistry.
kind of
Yeah,
came up with.
came up with. Yeah, yeah. So I moved from Birmingham back to London after the divorce, and I felt really isolated in terms of um, just working in practice. I wanted to connect with more women. I wanted to really work out how I could also progress to high visibility roles. And I wanted a safe space where I could talk
Mm.
about mental health, and I could talk about well-being, the things that I mentioned, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, in a safe space without being shot down. And I couldn't see that. I couldn't see a network for us. And so that's where the
Started.
idea kind of came about. And initially, yeah, and initially it was just about really interviewing other women and just connecting with them and learning from them. And so I'd written some articles and got those published, and then it kind of progressed to creating events, to then creating this conference. And a lot of it was just because I couldn't see it, and I wanted to I wanted more role models, and I wanted more women on stages. I wanted diverse women on stages. So there were all of those elements I was kind of looking to, and that's where the kind of concept came
What were the
from.
main things that you saw that specifically for that girls are kind of not getting in terms of the dental world that maybe there should be?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of kind of issues to detangle in that. So one of them I think that's really key is kind of the psychological barriers to progressing. So I mentioned imposter syndrome and perfectionism. These some of these traits are more common in women. Part of this is leadership training as well. We know that kind of focused leadership training for women can really help women in terms of outcomes. Like we're more likely to apply for those leadership positions. So there's this element of that, but also there's an element of um, these, certain organisations. They bring in other people that are like them, and that might be other men. They're friends essentially. So there is like a
Yeah, I
boys'
think you've
club
definitely seen
almost.
that this year with is it BAPD that got started where I swear it's one friendship
Yes.
group is the entire thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So we can see that in lots of organizations. And so it was just really, yeah, so there's all these different kind of factors. I mean, part of it as well is women and
mm,
families, and the impact of, being pregnant and having a child and coming back, how that impacts your self-confidence. And so, there are different elements to this, and there isn't a kind of simple solution, one solution to it. I think it will be multiple kind of interventions that can be helpful, but we do know that positive discrimination can be really, really helpful. So kind of leveling up the boards, and these quotas are really, really important. So that can be really helpful. I think having women's events can be really, really beneficial, not in a space to man bash at all. So
it's
we're not
different
talking
issues
about
for
that. It's
different
just
sorts of
about
people. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So connecting with other like-minded people, and helping each other through difficult times, having a safe space to talk, etc. So these things, having kind of leadership training is really, really helpful. I can give an an anecdote of my life just recently. So like last year, I applied for a accelerator program, and accelerator programs help with startups, and they help you kind of
yeah,
progress forward. And the Kings have a entrepreneurial institute, and they've actually got a women's institute as well, so women's kind of section. And they held a retreat, and in that retreat, you had really focused training on all aspects of a startup. And it was only because of that I really kind of applied for the accelerator program. I wouldn't have bothered otherwise, because I saw it and I thought, shit, like this is so crazy.
yeah,
Don't even know where to start. And then through the program, I met other women that were like me, applying. So it makes a big difference in terms of our self-confidence to put ourselves forward. So there's lots of different kind of factors, and we can see in other organizations, if we look at all the top organizations, they're already doing this. They have these events, and they have things tailor-made for people, and that can be really, really helpful. So yeah, there isn't a single kind of solution, but it's nice to see, for me particularly, that organizations are
mm,
taking more interest in this. So last week I was part of the FGDP panel on equality, and talking about women in dentistry. That was really awesome to see, so much interest, and hopefully like some progression on this. because when you look at conferences, we can see that there aren't the same percentages of women on the stage as we'd like, or
Yeah,
even on
yeah.
boards. Uh, so it would be really, really nice to see that. And yeah, for this no longer to be a conversation. But we are definitely moving in the right direction. Same with, I think, mental health as well. We're getting there, so I'm feeling really optimistic about the
Yeah.
future.
Um, yeah, it's a very difficult subject, isn't it? Because there's so many different factors at play. Like you said, there's family sorts of things. Some people might, forego going back to work because they want to concentrate on kids. Some people want to get back into it and want to get to the top again, which, there needs to be a way
Yeah.
to be able to do both. If you or one or the other or both
Mm.
or whatever combination. I think almost dentistry is good in a way
Mm.
because you can go back part time and you can just do, sessions
Mm.
of mornings and stuff as opposed to maybe, I don't know, I guess in banking they're like pretty crazy, aren't they? So
Yeah.
maybe it's going to be easier for us here than it is in some other professions or job types.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. We do have that bit. What's frustrating, for a woman with having been pregnant and coming back off maternity leave is that you don't have that job security, that position that you had before is there. So even if you wanted to, they might have brought another
Mm,
dentist in by then. So you kind of, it's about looking for another position. But I think ultimately it's about working in a practice that's supportive of your needs, and if you want to kind of work yourself up, you can do so. If you wanted to get to practice owner level, you're able to, and I feel like part of the issue is not having that mentorship and coaching and support. So that's another solution to the equality problem is having that mentorship and coaching. Makes a
yeah,
massive difference in all aspects of our life. But if we have someone who's gone through it, but has excelled where we want to excel, we can learn from it. And that makes certainly a big difference in us kind of
mm,
putting ourselves forward and trying things out. So yeah, there's a number of different solutions, and it'd be really interesting to kind of see more headway with this. Yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting to see.
I spoke to Brett Gilbert. I don't know if you saw that recently, um, start of the month, and we were talking about living a more fulfilled life or a life of meaning or
Mm.
something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what we titled the show. Um, do you think that's something that not just women, but obviously everybody, you know, needs to really nail down what you want and then some sort of framework about how to fulfill that? Because if you don't really know what you want, then you're kind of just plodding around randomly, and maybe you get lucky and you're really happy with what happens, or maybe you're not, and everything's a bit
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, you're completely right. That's a topic that I really love to kind of address and explore, and it's one that positive psychology completely loves as well. So, you're completely right when it comes to our happiness levels, our resilience. Having meaning, purpose makes a big, difference. When I was
Mm,
mentioning about depression, and going through that, I had that lack of meaning. So, when you don't have it, it's makes such a big difference to your mental health. But I feel like that's ultimately kind of what we're looking for. Like, how do we feel more fulfilled? And so I think it's a really important question. And the way that I explore it from a psychological angle is really getting you to think about what are your values and what do you stand for, and then creating goals
yeah.
that align with your values. And if you're not really sure about what your values look like, you can try different values tables. So if you Google, for example, acceptance and commitment therapy values, it comes up with this really nice kind of descriptive values table, and you can just have a read and see what resonates with you. There are different scales as well, so you can do like a kind of questionnaire or quiz and work out what your values might be.
Is
So
it
that could
like
be
one of
another
these
way.
personality
And then
test
it's,
things? I did one recently and seemed pretty accurate.
yeah, yeah. So it just focuses on your values as opposed to your traits. But yeah, ultimately it's like a kind of quiz for that. And that can be really, really beneficial, because once you kind of know what you stand for, so for me, it's about compassion, it's about creating a difference, leaving a legacy, helping others, community. So once you know those things, then it's so much simpler to create those really meaningful goals that align to kind of what you're striving for. What do you live for? What sets you afire? Like what kind of really what kind of things do you want to do in a meaningful way? So that's
Yeah,
one
it was
way of
Myers-Briggs
inviting
that had done.
meaning.
I just checked it.
Oh, okay, right, yes, yes. So that's, yeah. So that's one way. Another way is through reflection and journaling, and looking at what brings you kind of meaning, small and big examples of that. And that's a great thing to do
Yeah.
around the pandemic. Um, our brains naturally, as I was mentioning, that we've got a negativity bias, so we hone into the negativity, and it's really a kind of how our brains evolved. So it kind of makes sense we do that, but we really need to kind of counteract that. And so if we can explore meaning, and look at the benefits and how we've grown through the pandemic, for example, or any adversity, like me reflecting on the divorce is actually super beneficial when it comes to inviting more meaning, building my resilience and my happiness. So, there are lots of really interesting practices we can do. That one particular is called benefit finding, and it's been proven to really help with things like anxiety, depression, happiness boosting as well. So that's another way of inviting meaning. But you're right, it's a really important kind of conversation. It's one that we don't really talk about enough
Or
in
in life in
dentistry.
general, really, I think.
But
Because all these things that we're talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
yes, it's involved within dentistry and it's probably exacerbated by the nature of the job. But all of
yes,
these things are a product of modern life. And it's something that, yeah, I think
yeah,
that's
you're
like just
right.
magnified and doubled it up and stuff. But these are all things that most people in most jobs are feeling.
Yeah, I think also another thing I'd add to that, and just going off your point, really, is that what we think is going to bring us happiness and meaning doesn't actually do that. So when we think about money, like we need a certain
Mm,
amount of money for us to feel happy, but after that, it doesn't make a difference to our sense of meaning and happiness. So I think it's $75,000 in
yeah.
the official research says something like that, $75,000. Um, so we know that like chasing money isn't going to help, but yet we chase money. Um, we know that having the fancy car or the awards or whatever we're chasing isn't going to give this meaningful boost of happiness. We're going to get a hit of happiness, but it's not going to stay for very long. And so we do need the other type of happiness called eudaimonic happiness, and that's happiness with meaning. And that's really kind of important
Yeah.
for nurturing us. And we can do that through, as I was saying, like journaling or like creating goals that align to our values. But we can also do that through like charity as well. Oh,
She's
she's
gonna
cute.
probably irritate if I can just get her to sit down, then maybe I won't have to jump up and open the door for her.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. What was I saying? So you can.
We were
I've
talking
kind of
about
lost what I was
meaning
saying.
meaning.
Meaning, so the different charity. So I was going to mention another great way, and I know you've done it so well over the pandemic, is to think of ways that you can support others, and help others, whether it be creating a charity fundraiser like you've done, or just kind of calling a friend during the pandemic. That can be really, really key.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's been a big help to me, because I've been otherwise maybe sat around doing not very much. Certainly, I mean, the 24-hour thing was good, but I wasn't in a bad place at that time. That makes sense. Like
Mhm.
I was probably still pretty okay mentally and stuff like that. Whereas in December, going for the walks for miles to smiles was definitely something that maybe I needed. Uh, and I needed a target, I needed a goal, because I'm someone that definitely needs something big to work towards at all times. Otherwise, I just kind of like
Mhm.
lose myself
Yeah,
and go a bit insane.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's such a massive part of our psychological well-being, having those goals. So that's awesome, because in lots of ways you kind of designed your own well-being intervention there. So you combine charity with exercise, which is a great boost on mental health. And so, you're helping others, you're helping yourself, you're raising awareness, you're making a difference, you're
Mm.
inviting meaning. It's a pretty cool intervention
Yeah,
right
I
there.
was dragged into the walk,
Yeah,
so I'll
I think
thank
we
Ali Al Tough for that. Yeah.
can. But yeah, no, I love it. That those things are really important during this time, because we're feeling so isolated from
Mm.
people, and we're really losing social connection with people. So um, it's just really, really important to create those events, and to encourage other people to get involved as well. So yeah, that's really exciting to see you doing
Yeah, no,
that
I
as
think it's
well.
definitely been something that has helped, and more importantly, it's helped the people that we've raised money for and stuff like that, because they're in a much worse
Yes,
position than,
yes,
us sat at home watching too much Netflix, or,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know, oh, I can't go to a restaurant, let me have a takeaway instead. That's a different level of
yeah,
difficulty, if you want to call it a real first world
yeah,
problem sort of thing. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like the concept of the acts of kindness. So small or big acts of kindness. So in research, that's a big kind of boost when it comes to our well-being. So us kind of doing something to help others makes
mm,
us feel really good. So I know you're not doing it with that intention, but it's nice to know that you can benefit in that way, in like a wholesome way, from
yeah.
helping others. And I think the pandemic's really lent itself to that we can do that more, and we are really thinking about others that are less fortunate
Yeah,
than
I think it's
us
gone one of
during this
two ways. You
time.
either gone more compassionate, or you become much more selfish.
Mm.
I think that's shown itself in
Yeah,
society, and and how split everyone is and stuff. I'm gonna have to open the door for her. One sec.
yeah, yeah, no worries.
I had a feeling she was gonna do that when she fell asleep on my bed like an hour before the podcast. I was like, "You're gonna get up halfway through and then
Yeah,
like
right, yeah,
make me get up and go and get something for you." um,
yeah, oh, no worries. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think you make a great point about that. So, potentially making you feel more compassionate or being selfish. I think we've all got
yeah, no,
elements of that,
everybody
though.
has. Sure.
I'm sure there's been, yeah.
But it's just been interesting to see it.
So there is yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And because we're all going through this experience, I talked about the stages of grief during the depression aspect, during the divorce, but we've all experienced those stages of
Mm.
grief collectively, as we've been going through, lockdown one, and then, well,
5 or
we're in lockdown
6.
three at the moment.
Tier 9 and 3
Yeah,
tiers.
that's right. Yeah. So we've all gone through this, like, just insane psychological well, this insane time of our lives, and it's really impacted us in terms of going through these emotions, you know, this sense of denial, fear, shock, sadness, depression as well. That's part of it before we get to acceptance. So to navigate that roller coaster, it's tough. It's been a connection point, I think, for a lot of us, that we're all kind of experiencing this. And I hope actually, coming out of the pandemic, that we take those growth points, and we just really kind of savor and the moments more, and we're more present, and we appreciate the little niceties that
Yeah.
we had, you know, from, you know, just simply like going to hug someone without being worried that we're going to die. Um, you know, going to a shop without a mask, going to get some coffee from a cafe, like all of those like simple like pleasures, um, make our life like really colorful. Yeah, I hope that we kind of come out of that and don't forget this period of our lives. And I think a lot of us are also building resilience there as well, through this
I
difficult
do
kind of
think
time
masks are
as
here to
well.
stay for a while, to be honest. But it, it
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
makes sense in a way, because even like if we wear masks from now on, then things like the flu just become non-existent, don't they? Um, did we freeze there? Are we back?
yeah. Yes, you're
Yeah, I
back.
think we just
Yeah,
had a little
perfect.
connection issue there. Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
it'll be different for sure. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this point. It's just gonna be different, isn't it?
yeah. No, it is going to be different. Yeah, for sure. We probably will be wearing masks, but hopefully we can take some positives out of it. I have felt like there've been positives in the dental community as well. A lot of connection with people, and a lot more compassion, which is really, really nice, and coming together. So I've seen lots of those positives. So it'd be great to kind of go forward, and focus on helping each other, lifting each other up, as opposed to
Mm,
competition. So it'd be really nice to kind of, yeah, see that flourishing. And another positive, I guess, for me, coming from the mental health kind of space and well-being, is that there's so much more appetite for learning about how to look after the mind, and being active with training the mind and building those mind
yeah,
muscles. So I'm excited for the future. I think it's just going to be better, and we're going to keep kind of supporting the profession. So I'm kind of looking forward, and I'm excited to see, you know, all professionals kind
yeah,
of that a lot more, um, and being really interested in this space, and you know, creating conferences, and not shying away from these difficult topics. Also, diversity as well has been talked about and explored in a way that we've never spoken about. Um, I mean, globally, but also in dentistry as well.
mm,
So, kind of looking forward to those interesting, meaningful, real conversations. So it's a space where we can be authentic potentially, and
yeah.
that's what it's about.
I just hope
Yeah.
it becomes something which isn't like you've done the BD. Is it the BDA or was it BDJ thing the other week? You know, with the diversity and stuff like that, where it's a great that people are talking about it. But I'm sure that we've had certain things a bit like that before, where people have spoken about it and then nothing's been done.
Oh no, so I wasn't part of the FGDP
Was it?
discussion on
Oh, were you not
diversity.
right?
That was the quality one I did, women in dentistry, but they did do one with diversity, and they have created a board
Yeah,
actually, and that looks epic. So you're right. Without action, what's the point? But what I am seeing is more, not only interest, but I am seeing more actions being taken. Yes, things are they're definitely moving in the right direction to start, because I haven't seen it before. I've never seen a big organization talk
Yeah,
about
no,
this.
I mean, similar sorts of things have
So
been, done. Like you spoke about, like same poor connection at the top. We'll just see if we can manage to muddle through it or not.
yeah.
But we've seen previously, for example, it was GDC on preparedness to practice, which kind of came into what you spoke about earlier, not feeling like you were good enough and stuff like that because of a lack of experience. We went to this thing and it was supposed to be like a workshop on what can we do better, but the entire thing felt like they'd made their mind up and we were there just for show. Oh look, we spoke to these people. We spoke to people from higher education Yorkshire. I was there as a Yorkshire rep, and there were people from unis, and there was CDO Scotland, CDO England. All these people were sort of there, but it definitely felt like they knew what they wanted to come out of it already. They'd already pre-written what their conclusion was going to be, and we were just filling in the working afterwards, if that makes sense. And whatever we said was like, okay, good point, but we're going to do this.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, there's lots of barriers to change, and some of it's, coming from, or, part of this is it's coming from the top where people don't necessarily want those changes. And that's frustrating. That's a real issue. And this is where we're talking about like balancing the boards and how do you get more women, or how do you get like not just women but diverse people in these boards so you can reflect all these different opinions and it's not just one kind of thinking. So I think you're right that that is an issue, and it would be interesting to think of ways that we can address it going forward. But I know a lot of young people are really passionate about this, and are not frightened about these big issues. I'm seeing students talk about lots of these kind of issues so in such a passionate way that they're trying to make changes. And there's in positions of being head of like student unions. So when it comes to diversity, inclusivity, all these like really, really kind of key topics.
Yeah, we'll have to see, won't we? It's
That's
going to be hopeful, but that's always been my like irritation with these things because I went and did that and was like, what a waste of time. I mean, I'm the wrong person to go to these things because I'm very single-minded, and if I've got an idea, I'm just gonna I'm gonna tell you what I think. So I probably wasn't like diplomatic in how I said things because they were talking about, oh well, it was all to do with are people good enough at coming out of uni? I was saying, well, if you want good dentists or do you want to fill gaps in the NHS, make your mind up. And they didn't like that because I was like, oh well, yeah, send the hijabi girl who's never left home out to Cornwall because she ranked 500. Great one. That's going to help her loads. And they didn't like it because it was like something that they just didn't want to, accommodate within their working out. They just wanted like a nice, easy, oh, you have to see more patients.
Yes, so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are inherent problems, with the organisation, with the contract with NHS as well. So these things that need to be addressed, and then there's things at individual level as well. It's such a complex kind of problem. So yeah, it is frustrating to be on the receiving end of things like that. It's just I guess the way I fall on it is I've been working on the mental health
yours is a different
space.
sort of situation to what I had.
And even exploring kind of equality, all of those things. There's such it's such multifactorial and complex. It is frustrating when you're trying to create such big change, but we're seeing some progress, so that's only positive. And let's see what goes forward from this. So it'll be it'll be nice to kind of see those things. And I really feel the younger generation have got this. Like they're wanting to spare change, and so and they're wanting to address difficult topics, and they're not frightened to do that. So I'm really enthused by that, and I'm loving seeing that, and I'm definitely feeling that that sense from when I talk to them.
We'll see.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Should we change track a little bit, because you're obviously involved in
yeah.
social media to some degree. How has that affected you? First of all, but with within Mind Ninja, and how the opportunities are opened up for you there, but also on a personal sort of mental level, because we know that some people are more susceptible to issues when it comes to social media, self-worth, self-image, all these kinds of things that we hear quite a lot. How has that been for you? Because I'm sure it's very different to how I've found social media. It's all very personal to whatever your experience has been.
Yeah, that's a great question. So prior to Empowering Women and My Ninja, I did have an Instagram account, but I didn't really use it. I wasn't that active. I had a Facebook account. It was more kind of sharing holiday pictures. So when I first kind of founded these groups, I wanted to kind of create a social media page, and so Instagram kind of featured heavily. And yeah, I came across lots of positives, and that was connecting with lots of people that wouldn't normally be
Yeah.
able to connect with. So, in terms of setting up interviews, but even beyond that, just coming across really cool, interesting people. So that's been absolutely amazing to see, and just also, I guess, the journey of putting yourself out there and engaging with other people. And that's what I kind of love from social media. So connecting with students, all kinds of dentists, dental professionals, hygienists, therapists, like the whole kind of team. And that's exciting to see. So those are the massive positives with social media. The negatives really for me is um, the time and effort that's put into curating a feed, um, and this inherent, like, it becomes a you can quite easily kind of value the likes over what you're
Mm.
actually trying to do, which is trying to get engagement, and also the trap of kind of social comparison, so comparing yourself with other people. um, I So for me, I've had to really think about boundaries and how to look after my mental health, because just like anyone, I compare myself to other people, or I find myself mindlessly kind of scrolling through Instagram, and kind of wasting time, and so for me, it's about kind of being mindful of my interactions, but also setting boundaries in terms of, I've got a timer. I don't do beyond an hour of Instagram a day, and I try and go under that because that's actually quite a lot.
I don't want to know what
Um,
mine is.
I'm also I'm also aware of, like, psychologically how damaging it is potentially having going through other people's feeds, or even having certain products being sold to me. So there's an element of that, like, I think we need to be
Mm.
aware of. So creating a positive feed, like getting rid of toxic accounts, and just following people that bring you
What would you
kind
say a
of
toxic account
joy,
is?
positivity. So for me, a toxic account would be like someone that makes me feel, maybe perhaps they make me feel triggered. They might be really narcissistic. They don't align with my values, so they're not compassionate or kind. They Those are the kind of key ones. So they might be people that I don't know. They're not really helping me in any way. So that's where kind of I might kind of unfollow that account, or it might be actually accounts that are that aren't very positive towards your account as well. So a lot of us experience trolling, and that experience is very, very
Have you had a
difficult as
lot of
well.
that? I've
So
not.
I
I've had a couple of instances where I thought someone was out of line. But I'm very, very lavish with the block button, as those people found out. But have you had a lot of that with these things that you've done?
So not so much with Instagram, but certainly
Mm,
with Facebook. When I first posted about the women's group, and I'll tell you a few incidents because there was one recent as well. So with the women's group, I posted on one of the UK dentistry forums, and the amount of abuse I got from just saying simply, I've created a group. If you want to join, I'm here, just message me. It got really ridiculous. So it wasn't just I don't really believe in the calls. It was you're not going to make a difference to okay, I'm going to create a group for people with a mole on their left
I saw
cheek.
this
Like
whole
it just
post, which is why
got
I kind
really
of brought up
far.
the BAPG sort of thing, because a lot of those guys are
Yeah.
involved quite heavily in it.
Yes, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yes, yeah. So you're right. So there were certain kind, and that was my first experience of posting on a dental forum, and it was like, okay, that's a big
mm,
life lesson. People aren't going to accept you necessarily, even if if you're doing something with the best of intentions, they won't see it, and you're not really here to please everyone. So those are the kind of lessons I learned quite early on. It can be quite difficult to experience that. I think what I'd say is don't engage with those comments, unfollow the thread, try and focus on things that help you in terms of positivity,
yeah,
help others. You can't change people's minds, so kind of disengage. And then the other experiences recently, I did a BDA online workshop around resilience and mental well-being. That was posted, I think, by BDA onto one of the groups, and there was a comment about, oh, another workshop for the snowflake generation, and it was taken off, but the comment was seen, and so that was reported back to me actually by the dentist. So I'm not even following those
yeah,
comments, but it's frustrating to that particularly Facebook seems to be full of keyboard kind of
yeah. You don't get many
warriors,
over
people
40s on
that
Instagram. I think that's probably why. I'm just gonna can't say it.
yeah.
It's a certain generation that have got it up, really have a strong, hard look at themselves.
Yeah, yeah, I really think um I think it's really got
Mm,
out of hand on Facebook, and there's certain voices that are very extroverted and bullyish. So and that it's kind of emphasized in that, look, I've got freedom of, I should have freedom of speech, I should be able to say what I can, but actually the way they approach it is very aggressive, and it's very
I'd
unprofessional as
actually
well. So
believe in
I'd
freedom of
love to
speech, so
see.
that's a whole other topic for another day.
So freedom of speech is great, but I think you can talk to your colleagues in a nice, kind,
Mm,
compassionate way and still have a difference of opinion. But it's when you're like shot down and you're insulted, and yeah, that's not needed. You can say things in a different way. And so yeah, that's frustrating to see. But
mm.
I think it's important to be
Yeah,
mindful.
yeah. I think people
But
take freedom of speech as like,
this is so
sorry,
different.
I cut over you there a little bit.
Yeah.
We back? I'm just cutting out a little. Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, no. People take that freedom of speech as like a license to insult anyone, and then have a
Mm.
comeback. Oh, freedom of speech! I can say what I want once someone gets upset, which is why I don't believe in it at all. I think it's a bit of a it's a whole other conversation, and it's a whole other argument I'm not willing to
Yeah.
start right now. But yeah, it's one of those things that I have a different view to most people on that side of things. But yeah, I think on the whole, you're right. Social media is great, especially um, having connected with people from across the globe has been really good for me. Apart from a few occasions like you've had where people are trying to again, it's keyboard warriors, people trying to trip you up over something, and you're not in the wrong or anything like that. But if, for example, it's a piece of treatment, and this happened ages ago. I'd picked up a case from when I was in FD, and I was, I was taking photographs of every stage, and then they'd been to see an emergency dentist or something, and had some, temporary put in, and I'd dammed up and taken the filling out, and then you could see that there'd been like a bit of a gouging of the teeth next to it, which happens, not great. But this guy decided that he was gonna have a swing at me for having done that, and
Oh gosh.
obviously he hasn't got a clue what's gone on, and um, I blocked him straight away. I was just like, do one. So that
Yeah.
that kind of thing
Yeah.
where people are trying to trip you up. I would be much happier if someone goes, "Oh, bro, by the way, did you see this?" Like in a DM, because then
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
whole etiquette of go. Actually, have you seen that? Did you check that before or whatever? Did you miss
Yes.
that?
Yeah. You're right.
Then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're on a level here. Whereas saying it
Yeah.
out in the open is definitely trying to go, look at me, look how clever I am. I've spotted something that no one else has spotted, and I'm better than you. That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it comes down to professionalism and just values like kindness, compassion. You can definitely approach your colleagues in that way. You don't have to approach it in the way that he did. So I really think it comes down to that, and we all understand what that looks like.
yeah,
So there's no excuse for it. So um, it's sad to see, but there's this disconnection that you have when you're on social media, and there are certain people that feel like they can kind of get away with it. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't happen as
face to
much
face.
in more
Oh yeah,
physical.
they wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't say anything to your face, and I think that's what makes it
yeah,
so kind of sad in a way. Because if you're gonna say something, say it to my face in a way that have you got the balls to do that sort of thing? Um,
yeah,
which
yeah. No,
I don't know. It's one of those, and yeah. So apart from that, and maybe with an account like mine, people trying to take advantage of the exposure and
mhm.
stuff like that in a way which isn't reciprocal or whatever, then that's something that I have an issue with, which may have happened a couple of times. But um, I suppose it's going to happen. I'll just deal with it and move on. Other than that, social media has been brilliant, and I've done a lot of things that I wanted to do, and clearly you're doing it as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, the amount of opportunities I've got from this space is amazing. So that was really kind of mind blowing, because at that point before I'd set Empowering Women, I'd never been on a stage. I'd never had a big kind of voice in dentistry. So to just know that actually anyone can do that. And there was a point where I was thinking, I really want to have these conversations around mental health, well-being, resilience. How do I get to that point where I'm invited? Like, what do I need to do to actually get to that
Mm.
position? Turns out you need to put yourself out there.
Shock
You need
horror.
to create those opportunities. Yeah, so that was an interesting kind of lesson though, because I would see all these people, and it would be the same people over and over again. I was like, what's going on? How come they have so much space? Um, and so yeah, it's been a really kind of interesting journey to realize that actually you have ownership on that, you have control, you can create those opportunities, and they will keep coming. So I've got to a point where I need to. I'm learning to say no to opportunities, not because I'm not grateful.
Time.
It's just I have so much on. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I need to focus on certain things. So that's been the kind of journey, and just working out like what's an opportunity to say yes to, and what's an opportunity that I have to let go. And so yeah, that's been kind of
Yeah.
interesting now, learning how to do that. Definitely getting better at saying no, but doesn't come to me
Yeah, I will.
naturally
We'll see what happens once I
so
post
much.
this on some of the Facebook groups, and see whether they come swinging back at me for any of my comments. I don't know. Let's start to wrap things up there because we've done like an hour and a half almost. So don't want to drag it on
Yeah,
too much,
yeah.
otherwise it'll get a bit too lengthy. Where can we find you? That's the main thing that we need to know, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can find me at Mindninja.ltd. I'm also, you can email me as well, so mindninja4dentists@gmail.com, or check out my website, so mindninja.org. Yeah, so if you're interested in kind of coaching or team well-being, resilience, or workshops, yeah, contact me. I'd love to kind of connect and help.
Yeah, and is there any online stuff for guys who are abroad?
So I am next year going to be creating kind of online content.
Yeah,
So my program will be up there. So that'll be kind of really, really useful. At the moment, it's just about getting this master's completed, writing a book as well. So that should be out next summer.
getting them out of the way
Um,
first.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's all coming. So lots of exciting plans for next year.
Awesome. It's been great having you here. Hopefully everything goes well. I'm sure we'll keep in contact and see how you're getting on. Guys, it's been Maru from Mindninja.ltd on Instagram, and she's also got a couple of links in her bio that you want to check out and see her website and etc. Really, really interesting, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share it to some friends if you know there's anyone who might benefit from anything that Maru's doing. And most importantly, if you've got some ideas about who I should have on next, let me know. Let me know what you thought of today's video, and hopefully we'll have much more like it. We are going to be changing things up slightly on my content, so going to be fewer podcasts of this nature. We're going to do keep this to the most interesting topics and the most impactful topics. We are going to restart some cases live on Instagram, so there will be those, and the replays will be here on YouTube. And I think that's pretty much the main bits. And then we're also going to be looking to do some of the Instagram tutorials, which you guys have already been loving and checking out loads. So thank you for that. But like I said before, make sure to subscribe if you've not already. Like the video, leave a comment down below, and if you like what we're doing here on Dents of Insta, Hotball Podcast, and all the other things that I'm doing, check out the Patreon group, which